Aaron was a maintenance worker on a deep space station that orbited a quiet planet. The station was large, built from metal layers and old parts that had been patched together many times over the years. For most people who lived there, it was only a place to pass through, a stop before going to better colonies. But for Aaron, this place was home. He knew every hallway, every broken pipe, and every sound of the walls. One morning, he was ordered to check the lower decks where water lines were leaking again. These decks were not visited often, and they were darker than the upper floors where light and noise never stopped. Aaron carried a small lamp and his repair kit as he walked through the empty passage. He fixed a few leaks, but when he finished, he noticed something unusual. At the end of a corridor, half hidden behind old storage crates, was a strange door. He was certain it had not been there before. Aaron had walked this path many times in the past, and nothing had been in that corner but blank wall. Yet now a tall door stood there, made of black metal that seemed different from the rest of the station. The surface was smooth, almost too smooth, as if it was polished stone instead of metal. Strange lines ran across it, glowing faintly like silver veins. The shapes looked like writing, but they were not in any language he had seen. Aaron frowned and moved his lamp closer. The light made the marks shine brighter, as if the door enjoyed being seen. He reached out with his hand. The moment his skin touched the surface, the metal rippled like water. Aaron pulled his hand back quickly, shocked. He had worked with machines all his life, but he had never seen one behave like this. His heart pounded fast, and for a moment he thought about running back to the crew to report it. But something about the door held him in place. He pressed his ear against it, expecting silence, but instead he thought he heard a low hum, like many voices whispering together far away. The sound grew faint and then vanished. Aaron stepped back and shook his head. Perhaps he had been working too long without rest. Later that evening, he tried to tell others about what he found. In the dining hall, he spoke to two engineers sitting across from him. "There is a door on the lower deck," he said. "I touched it, and it moved like liquid. It was covered in strange writing. Did anyone know it was there?" The engineers laughed lightly and told him he must have imagined it. One of them said, "Maybe you saw a reflection or some leaking coolant. Pipes down there make strange shapes." The other added, "No one builds doors that appear from nowhere. If you want a good story, talk about the traitors, not shadows." On the wall, Aaron tried to insist, but their faces showed they were not interested. They had heard him speak of odd things before, strange sounds, odd flickers in the lights, and they had learned to ignore him. He finished his meal in silence, though his mind kept going back to the smooth black surface and the silver lines that glowed. That night, he could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the marks again. They almost looked alive, like they were moving in slow patterns. He told himself he would go back in the morning, just to check once more. If the door was gone, he would know it was a trick of tired eyes. If it was still there, then he would need to understand why. When the next day came, Aaron went to the lower decks again. The halls were silent, with only the sound of distant air pumps. He carried his lamp and repair kit as before, pretending to be on duty. His steps slowed when he neared the corner. The storage crates were still stacked there, dusty and untouched. Behind them, the black door stood waiting. It had not moved. It had not faded. The glowing marks shone softly. Just as he remembered, Aaron felt a chill crawl up his arms. This was no dream. The door was real. He walked closer and placed his hand on it again. Once more, the surface rippled under his touch, sending small waves of light across the silver lines. This time, Aaron did not pull back. He pressed harder, and the hum returned, deeper and clearer. He thought he heard words forming within the noise, though he could not understand them. Aaron took a step back. His breathing was fast, his hands shaking slightly. He looked around the dark corridor. No one else was there. The station was full of people, yet in this part of the deck, he was completely alone. In that silence, he made a choice. He would not tell anyone again. No one would believe him, not until he showed them proof. He would return alone, again and again if needed, until he discovered what the door was hiding. As he turned to leave, the silver lines pulsed once more, brighter than before, as if the door had listened to his thoughts and agreed with his decision. Aaron did not notice, for he was already walking away. But deep in his mind, he carried the feeling that the door was not just waiting, it was calling. The next day, Aaron found himself restless. He tried to focus on his duties, repairing broken vents and adjusting pressure gauges, but his mind was not on the work. Each time he lifted a tool, his thoughts drifted back to the strange black door, hidden behind the crates. It had become impossible to ignore Dot. By evening, when most of the crew had returned to their cabins, Aaron walked quietly toward the lower decks. He told himself he would only take a quick look and then leave. But deep inside, he knew he wanted more than that. He wanted to see what was behind the door. The corridor was just as silent as before. His lamp cast a weak circle of light on the floor as he moved the crates aside one by one. Dust rose in the air, making him cough softly. Finally, the black surface came into view again. The silver lines glowed with a steady rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Aaron took a deep breath and touched it. As before, the surface rippled under his palm. But this time, the door responded differently. The silver patterns moved, flowing together until they formed a clear outline of a hand, his own hand. The shape pressed outward, as if inviting him. He hesitated, but curiosity was stronger than fear. Slowly, he pushed with both hands. The door did not swing open like a normal one. Instead, the black surface melted away, dissolving into a sheet of golden light. It was warm, but not burning. Aaron squinted and stepped through. What he saw inside stole the air from his lungs. The chamber stretched far beyond the size of the station. It was larger than any hall he had ever seen, so wide and high that the walls and ceiling seemed to vanish into endless space. The floor glowed faintly, made of a smooth material that reflected his image like water. Objects floated all around, each one shining with its own light. Some looked like tools, others like crystals, and some were shapes he could not even describe. Aaron turned in place, trying to take it all in. It felt impossible. He had entered through a small door, but now he stood in a place the size of a city. His lamp flickered uselessly in his hand before he shut it off. He no longer needed it, for the golden glow filled every corner. His eyes caught a stone tablet nearby, covered in carvings. When he reached out, it drifted closer as if it wanted him to hold it. Carefully, he touched it with his fingertips. The moment he made contact, his mind filled with images. He saw mountains burning under two suns. He saw towers rise and then fall into dust. He heard voices chanting words he could not understand. The visions lasted only seconds, but when he dropped the tablet in shock, his heart was racing. He looked at his wrist chronometer to steady himself. The numbers were frozen. The screen still glowed, but the seconds had stopped moving. Aaron's breath caught in his throat. He tapped the device, shook his wrist, but nothing changed. Then he placed it close to the tablet, and for a brief instant, the numbers jumped forward. By an hour before freezing again, he felt a chill. The room was not only filled with objects, it was filled with time itself, trapped and twisted in ways he could not understand. His gaze swept the chamber again. The floating relics were not random junk. They were fragments of history, each carrying memories of worlds long gone. He wondered how many civilizations had left their marks here, and how many more were waiting unseen in the distance of this endless hall. Aaron stepped further in, unable to stop himself. Each artifact pulled at his curiosity. A crown of silver. Flames hovered above him, spinning slowly. A broken mask drifted past, its eye sockets glowing faintly with blue light. There was even something that looked like a child's wooden toy, but it floated with the same dignity as the grand relic stood. As he walked deeper, he felt the weight of silence. There was no sound but his own footsteps. Yet at the edge of his hearing, he thought he caught whispers again, soft, endless voices that seemed to echo from the relics themselves. His pulse quickened, but not only from fear. This was discovery. This was knowledge no one else on the station had ever seen. He imagined what the others would say if he showed them this place. Perhaps they would laugh at him no more. Perhaps they would finally see that he was right to listen to things others ignored. But another thought chilled him. If this place was real, and he had no doubt now that it was, then why was it hidden? Why was the door sealed behind crates? And shadows? Aaron stood very still. The golden glow painted his face, and the objects drifted in silence around him. For the first time, he wondered if he was truly alone in this chamber. Suddenly, he felt a change in the air. The whispers grew, louder, as though something had noticed him. He turned quickly, scanning the endless hall, but he saw nothing moving except the relics. Still, his heart pounded as if unseen eyes were upon him. He decided to leave. He had seen enough for one night. With hurried steps, he made his way back toward the entrance, the golden light fading as he approached the wall of black metal. As he stepped through, the light melted away behind him, and the door sealed itself once more. Back in the dim corridor of the station, Aaron leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. His chronometer beeped suddenly, showing that 3 hours had passed. But to him, it had felt like only a short while inside. He whispered to himself, "This is no dream." And in the silence of the empty hallway, the silver lines on the door glowed faintly, as though they had heard him. For the next few days, Aaron lived 2 lives. On the surface, he worked as always, fixing pipes, tightening bolts, and checking air systems. He spoke little to the crew and gave no sign of what he had found. But inside his mind, he carried the memory of the golden chamber. Every time he blinked, he saw the floating relics, glowing with their own strange light. Every time he tried to rest, he heard the whispers that had followed him out of the room. At first, he tried to ignore the pull. He told himself it was dangerous to return, but the more he resisted, the stronger the need became. Finally, one evening, he gave in. He walked down the silent corridor, moved the crates aside, and touched the black door again. As before, the surface rippled and melted into light. Inside, the chamber looked the same endless space, relics drifting in silence. Aaron stepped carefully, his eyes moving from one artifact to another. He had come with a purpose this time. He wanted to understand the voices. He reached for a silver disc that floated close to him. It was small, smooth, and cold to the touch. The moment his fingers closed around it, his vision blurred. He saw a desert under a purple sky. He heard wind howl as tall figures marched across the sand, carrying banners with shining emblems. Their voices were loud, filled with pride and sorrow, as if they were singing their final song. Aaron gasped and dropped the disc. The vision ended, leaving him trembling. He bent down, breathing hard. When he looked at his wrist chronometer, he froze. Hours had passed again. His body felt only minutes, but the device told a different truth. The whispers returned, stronger this time. They came, not from one place, but from every direction. Soft voices spoke words he could not understand, yet the tone was filled with longing. Aaron turned in circles, his heart racing. "Who are you?" he whispered aloud. For a moment, Silence followed. Then, faint and broken, a reply reached him. It was not clear speech, but he thought he heard the sound of the word remember. The echo stretched, fading slowly. Aaron's skin prickled. The chamber was not only holding objects. It was holding memories, fragments of entire lives. Each artifact was a container of stories, and by touching them, he was hearing the past itself. Curiosity pushed fear aside. He moved deeper into the chamber, past more relics. His eyes fell on a broken crown made of dark metal. The tips were sharp, bent as if crushed by force. It hovered above him, its faint glow casting shadows across his face. Against his better judgment, Aaron reached for it. The instant his hand touched the crown, his vision filled with chaos. He saw a battlefield under a red sky. Creatures he could not name clashed with spears of light, their cries shaking the ground. He felt the weight of loss, as if the crown had once rested on the head of a ruler who had seen their people destroyed. When the vision ended, Aaron staggered back, nearly falling. His heart pounded painfully in his chest. He looked down at his chronometer again. An entire day had passed outside. He clenched his fists in shock. "I cannot stay too long," he muttered to himself. "This place eats time." But still, the whispers continued. They called to him, asking to be remembered, begging to be touched, begging to be seen. Aaron pressed his hands against his ears, though the sound was not coming from outside. It was in his head now. He left quickly, almost running to the door. The golden glow vanished behind him, leaving only the black surface with its silver lines. Aaron leaned on the wall of the corridor, gasping for breath. His body felt the weight of 1 hour, but his chronometer insisted he had lost an entire day. When he returned to the main deck, several workers stared at him in surprise. "Where were you?" one of them asked. "You missed your shift yesterday." Aaron opened his mouth, then closed it again. He could not explain. If he told them the truth, they would laugh or worse, report him. He forced a smile and muttered something about being sick. They nodded, though their eyes held doubt. That night, Aaron lay in his bunk, unable to rest. The voices followed him even in silence. He dreamed of purple skies and red battlefields, of banners and broken crowns. He woke with sweat on his face and the taste of dust on his tongue. For the first time, he felt a trace of fear stronger than curiosity. The treasure room was no ordinary place. It was a living archive of ages long gone. And each time he touched its relics, more of it was seeping into him. Yet, deep down, Aaron knew he would return. Because despite the fear, there was also wonder. And wonder was harder to resist than fear. Aaron tried to keep away from the door, but the effort was useless. The whispers were always there now, gentle but constant, like a stream of water flowing in his ears. He worked during the day and forced a smile when the crew spoke to him, but at night his mind returned to the chamber. The relics called for him to remember them, and he could not silence them. After days of struggle, he finally told someone. The person he chose was Mira, a young scholar assigned to the station as a researcher. She studied old trade maps and languages, spending most of her time in the archives. Aaron had seen her many times reading in the corner of the mess hall, always quiet, always watching. He thought, if anyone might believe him, it would be her. He found her in the library room, surrounded by glowing screens filled with notes. "Myra," he said in a low voice, "I need to show you something. But you must promise not to laugh." She raised her eyes and studied him. "You look serious. What is it?" "There is a door on the lower deck," he said, choosing his words carefully. "It leads to a chamber that is bigger than this station. Inside are relics, floating, shining with their own light. Each one carries memories. If you touch them, you see things from the past." Most people would have laughed or waved him away. But Mira did not. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Memories from where? Different worlds, Aaron replied. Wars, songs, skies of strange colors. I saw them. I lost time in there. Minutes to me became days outside. For a long moment, Myra was silent. Then she stood. Show me. Aaron hesitated. He had not expected her to agree so quickly, but he nodded. Together, they walked quietly through the corridors, avoiding the eyes of the crew. When they reached the crates, Aaron pushed them aside, revealing the black surface with its silver lines. Mira gasped softly. This was hidden here? She whispered. I walked these halls many times. How did I never see it? The door hides itself, Aaron said. But once you notice it, you cannot unsee it. He touched the surface and, as before, the lines rippled and melted into golden light. Mira's eyes widened. Without waiting, she stepped through first. Aaron followed, and they entered the vast chamber together. Myra stood frozen, staring in awe. This is impossible. She breathed. It feels endless. Aaron nodded. It is not only space. It is time. Watch. He reached for the silver disc again. The moment he touched it, the vision of the desert returned. Banners in the wind, voices in song. Mira gasped as if she too could feel it. When he let go, Aaron showed her his chronometer. Minutes for us, but hours outside. This place swallows time. Myra walked slowly among the relics, her eyes wide. She reached for a crystal shard that floated nearby. The instant her hand closed around it, her body stiffened. Aaron watched her face twist in shock, then soften with awe. When she dropped the shard, she was trembling. I saw a city built on water, she whispered. Boats filled every street. Children laughed, and towers of glass reached into the sky. Then it all sank, swallowed by the sea. She looked at Aaron with fear and wonder mixed in her eyes. You were telling the truth, Aaron nodded. Each object is a memory, a story. This chamber is alive. It keeps history from dying. Mira took a slow breath. No, not alive. It is an archive. A living archive feeding on time itself to preserve what would be lost. That is why it steals hours and days from us. It must consume something to keep these memories alive. The thought made Aaron shiver. If it consumes time, then how many people entered here before us and never left? Mira looked into the distance where the relics floated endlessly. Perhaps some of them are here still, not as bodies, but as echoes. The whispers we hear, maybe they are explorers who came before us. The chamber grew silent again, though the whispers curled faintly at the edge of their hearing. Aaron's chest felt heavy. He had come seeking answers, but now he had more. Questions. Myra turned back to him, her voice steady. You must be careful. This place is dangerous. Knowledge has a cost, and here the cost is time. Stay too long, and you may walk out older than the rest of us, or not walk out at all. Aaron lowered his eyes. But the knowledge here could change everything. Imagine what we could learn. Myra shook her head. Imagine what we could lose. Humanity has survived not by knowing everything, but by knowing when to stop. This archive may not want us to take. It may only want us to watch. Aaron felt torn. Part of him agreed, but another part burned with curiosity. He could not forget the visions of strange worlds, the voices asking to be remembered. If humanity turned away, would those voices fade forever into silence? Before they left, Mira placed her hand on one last relic, a simple stone ring. She gasped and pulled back quickly. That one was different, she said, her face pale. What did you see? Aaron asked. Her voice was low. I saw myself, but older. Much older. Standing in this same chamber alone. The words sent a cold wave down Aaron's spine. He looked once more at the endless relics, then guided Mira back to the door. The golden light melted away behind them, leaving only the silver lines on black. Metal dot in the silence of the corridor, Mira's voice was firm. We must decide. Do we risk our time for their memories? Or do we close this place forever? Aaron had no answer. The whispers still clung to his mind, gentle but endless. He knew. He would return. But he also knew now each step inside came with a price. After that night, Aaron and Mira returned to the chamber together again and again. At first, they tried to control how long they stayed, setting alarms and checking their chronometers carefully. But each visit still ended with confusion. What felt like an hour to them often became a day outside. The chamber swallowed time without mercy. Still, they could not stay away. The relics held too much wonder. Each one carried a memory of a place, a people, or a moment lost to history. Mira recorded what she saw in her datapad, filling page after page with notes. Aaron touched fewer objects than before, but when he did, he always felt the voices stronger than ever. One evening, as they walked deeper into the endless hall, Aaron stopped suddenly. He felt the air change. It was colder now, though no wind moved. Myra noticed too, and looked around carefully. Something is here, she whispered at first. Aaron thought it was only the relics drifting as usual. But then, at the far edge of his vision, he noticed movement. A shadow slid between two glowing objects. It had no clear shape, only the outline of a figure darker than the space around it. Did you see that? Aaron whispered. Myra nodded, her face tense. Yes, we are not alone. They stood frozen, waiting. Slowly, the shadow moved closer. Its form shifted as it glided, sometimes tall, sometimes bent, as if it did not have a body of its own. There was no sound of steps, only the faint hum of the chamber itself. When the figure came near, Aaron's chest tightened. He felt the whispers grow louder in his head, almost unbearable now. Mira pressed a hand to her temple, wincing. It is speaking to us, she said softly. Aaron tried to focus on the shadow. What are you? He asked aloud. His voice echoed faintly through the vast hall. The shadow stopped. For a moment, silence fell. Then the whispering surged, words layered over words until Aaron thought his mind would split. But in the chaos, one message was clear. Not yours. Aaron staggered back. Myra grabbed his arm to steady him. The shadow drifted slowly around them, never attacking, but always watching. They are guardians, Myra said, her voice trembling. Collectors or keepers. They protect the relics. Guardians of what? Aaron asked. Of time itself, she whispered. Maybe these are the echoes of those who came before us. Explorers who touched too much and lost themselves here. The thought chilled Aaron. He looked at the shadow again, and for a brief instant, he thought he saw a face flicker within the darkness. A human face, worn and tired, its eyes empty. But then it was gone, replaced by shifting black. The shadow circled them once more, then faded back into the distance, leaving only the glow of the relics behind. The whispers softened but did not vanish. Aaron released a shaky breath. It did not stop us. It only warned us. Myra nodded. It means we cannot take anything from here. If we try, they will not allow it. This archive belongs to them. Aaron clenched his fists. But the knowledge here could save lives. It could change the future of humanity. Are we supposed to just look and leave? Myra's eyes were sharp. Maybe that is all we are allowed to do. To remember, not to claim. They left the chamber quickly that night, the silver lines sealing behind them. But neither could shake the image of the shadow. Aaron lay awake in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. The word repeated in his mind, not yours. The next day, while working on broken valves, Aaron caught himself staring at the wall. wondering if the shadows were watching him even outside the chamber. He felt restless, almost haunted. When he passed Mira in the mess hall, he saw the same tired look in her eyes. Later that evening, they met again near the hidden door. Mira spoke first. "We must be careful now. The guardians are real. If we anger them, we may never return." Aaron nodded, though deep down, his thoughts were divided. A part of him feared the shadows, but another part burned with defiance. Humanity had always reached further than others thought possible. Wasn't it their nature to take risks? As they entered again, Aaron kept his eyes sharp. The relics floated in silence, the golden glow bathing them in light. Nothing moved at first. But then, faint at the edges, the shadows stirred once more. This time, there were more of them. 3 figures drifted silently in the distance. Watching, Mira whispered, "They are warning us again. We should leave." But Aaron did not move. He stared back at the shadows, his jaw tight. "They want us to fear them, but we are human. We cannot stop here. If these relics hold the power to save lives, then we must risk it." The whispers swelled in his head, pressing against his thoughts until he almost cried out. He grabbed Myra's arm. "Do you hear it? They are not just saying, 'not yours.' They are saying more. They are saying, 'not yet.'" Myra looked at him in shock. "Not yet? Then when?" Aaron shook his head slowly. "I don't know, but maybe they are not only guarding. Maybe they are waiting for something, or for someone." The shadows did not come closer. They simply drifted, their dark forms blending with the golden glow. Aaron and Mira left in silence, their hearts heavy. For the first time, Aaron felt the chamber was testing him. Not only his curiosity, but his patience. And patience was something humanity was not known for. The station had been running smoothly for months, but nothing in deep space stayed calm forever. One morning, alarms echoed through every hall. Aaron woke with a jolt as red lights flashed above his bunk. A voice on the speakers shouted, "Main reactor unstable. All crew prepare for emergency measures." Aaron rushed through the corridors. The air smelled sharp, like burnt metal. Workers hurried past him, their faces pale. He caught Mira near the engineering deck, where smoke curled from open panels. "What happened?" he asked. "Cooling systems failed," Mira answered quickly. "If we do not repair it, the core will overheat and tear the station apart." Engineers worked frantically, but the systems were old. Patching them with simple tools would not be enough. Myra looked at Aaron, her eyes sharp. "The chamber," she whispered. "There may be knowledge there, designs, machines that could save us." Aaron hesitated only a moment. "Then we must try." Together, they ran to the hidden door. Aaron shoved the crates aside, touched the black surface, and the golden light opened once more. They stepped through, entering the endless chamber filled with relics. Inside, time slowed as always. Aaron felt his heartbeat calm, even as alarms still rang in his memory. He turned to Mira. "We need something that can control heat. Something powerful enough to stabilize the core." They split apart, searching among the floating relics. Aaron reached for a device shaped like a ring of glass, its center glowing blue. When his fingers touched it, his vision burst with images of a city under twin moons. He saw towers glowing with cold fire, their machines keeping entire seas from boiling. He gasped and pulled back. "This is it," he whispered. "This is a cooling engine." But the moment he tried to carry it, a shadow drifted into view. The guardians were there again. One dark figure glided between him and Mira, its whisper filling his head. "Not yours." Aaron clenched his teeth. "We do not want to steal. We only want to learn." The whisper grew louder, painful in his skull. "Not yours." "Not yet." Myra came to his side, holding a tablet she had touched. "Aaron, listen. Maybe we cannot take the relics, but we can take their knowledge." If we study the memories fast enough, we can rebuild them outside. Aaron looked at the glowing ring again. His chronometer had already jumped ahead. An hour had passed outside while only minutes moved here. Time was slipping through his hands. He grabbed the device with both arms, forcing the visions into his mind. He saw diagrams, layers of design, energy moving through coils. His head ached, but he refused to stop. Myra steadied him as his knees shook. "Careful," she said, but her own eyes were locked on her tablet, glowing with strange symbols she tried to memorize. The shadows circled them, closer now. Aaron felt their whispers pressing harder. His skin prickled, his chest burned. But he pushed on. "Humanity needs this," he muttered. "We cannot just walk away." At last, the images in his head grew clearer. He saw how the device used crystals to hold cold energy, how it pushed heat into another dimension. He could almost draw it out now. His mind felt stretched thin, but he had what he needed. With a final effort, he dropped the ring. It floated back into place as if nothing had touched it. The shadows drifted away slightly, as though satisfied he had left it behind. Aaron turned to Myra, sweat on his face. "I have it. I know how to build it." "Then let us go," she urged. They rushed to the door. As they stepped through, Aaron's body staggered with the weight of time. His arms felt heavy, his hair slightly grayer than before. Myra gasped at the sight, but there was no time to question it. Back in the engineering deck, Aaron drew the design from memory with shaking hands. Engineers crowded around as he explained the parts: crystals to trap heat, coils to push energy away, stabilizers to hold the reaction steady. At first, they doubted him, but the urgency left no choice. They followed his instructions, piecing together the machine with what they had. Hours later, as the reactor roared dangerously, the new system was installed. The glowing coils lit up, pulling heat away from the core. The alarm slowed, then stopped. The red lights faded. The station steadied with a deep hum. Cheers filled the deck. Crew members clapped each other's shoulders, their faces bright with relief. But when Myra turned to Aaron, her joy was mixed with fear. His hands trembled, his face lined deeper than before. What had been hours for the crew had been weeks for him inside the chamber. His sacrifice was hidden behind his silence. But Myra saw it clearly. "You risked yourself," she whispered. Aaron gave a tired smile. "That is what humans do. We risk everything when there is no other choice." Myra lowered her eyes, her thoughts heavy. She knew he would return to the chamber again. Curiosity burned in him stronger than fear, and now he had proven that humanity could wrest power from the living archive. But she also knew each visit stole more of his life. As Aaron walked away from the reactor, the whispers still echoed faintly in his head. "Not yours. Not yet." But he wondered, what if humanity's time was finally coming? The station was safe again, but for Aaron, safety came with a cost. When the crisis ended, he looked in the mirror and hardly recognized himself. His hair had silver strands where before it had been dark. Fine lines creased his skin, as though years had passed in a single day. To the rest of the crew, he had only worked for hours. But inside the chamber, he had lived through weeks. Myra noticed the change more than anyone else. She watched him carefully, her worry plain. "You cannot keep doing this," she said quietly as they sat in the empty mess hall. "Every time you go inside, you lose time you can never get back." Aaron stared at his hands. They shook slightly, still tired from the strain. "I know. But if humanity can gain what lies there, maybe it is worth the years." Myra's voice was firm. "You are one man. You should not carry this burden alone. The chamber takes from you because you refuse to stop. One day, you may not return it." Aaron said nothing. Deep down, he knew she was right. But he also knew the whispers had not left him. Even in silence, the relics called. They spoke of forgotten empires, of secrets hidden for ages, of knowledge waiting to be seen. He could not ignore them. Days passed, and the station returned to routine. The crew worked, traders came and went, and the alarms no longer filled the halls. Yet beneath the calm surface, Aaron felt a storm building. He dreamed of the chamber every night, and each time the shadows were closer, whispering the same words. Not yet. One evening, Myra found him standing before the hidden door again. She stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "Do not go," she said. "You have already given enough." Aaron looked at her, his eyes tired but steady. "The chamber is waiting. The guardians know we are here. Why else would they whisper, 'Not yet'? They are not only keeping us out, they are testing us. If we turn away now, we may never learn what they guard." Mira's voice softened. "And if the price is your life?" Aaron smiled faintly. "Then I give it, because someone must." Before she could answer, he touched the door. The silver lines rippled, and the golden light opened once more. Myra followed, unwilling to let him face the chamber alone. Inside, the vast hall shone brighter than ever. The relics floated in calm silence, yet the air felt heavy, as if holding its breath. The shadows appeared at once this time. Dozens of them drifted at the edges, their forms dark and shifting. Aaron stepped forward. "We saved our people with what you hold. Humanity is ready. If there is more to give, then give it now." The whispers filled the chamber, louder than ever. Mira pressed her hands to her ears, but Aaron stood firm. Slowly, one shadow glided closer. Its form stretched tall, and within the darkness, Aaron thought he saw faces of men and women. Explorers like himself, their eyes deep with sorrow and wisdom. The voice in his head was clear now. "The archive remembers. The memory is not gift. It is price." Aaron's chest tightened. "Then let the price be mine." The shadow paused, then drifted back. Suddenly, the relics around them glowed brighter. Dozens of objects spun in the air, their lights merging into a single beam that surrounded Aaron. His body trembled as visions poured into him, cities rising, stars dying, oceans burning, and countless voices crying out not to be forgotten. Mira reached for him, but he raised a hand weakly. "Do not stop it," he whispered. "This is what I came for." The light grew blinding. When it faded, Aaron fell to his knees, gasping. His hair was now almost white, his skin marked with the weight of years he had not lived outside. Yet his eyes burned with clarity. He looked at Myra and smiled. "I have it," he said. "All of it. The archive is now inside me." The shadows drifted back into the distance, no longer threatening. The whispers softened until they were nothing but a faint echo. The chamber itself grew still, as if satisfied. Mira knelt beside him, her heart heavy. "You gave too much," she whispered. Aaron shook his head slowly. "I gave what I could. Now humanity carries the memories of 1,000 worlds. We will not walk blind anymore." With effort, he stood. Together, they walked back to the door. The golden light melted away behind them, sealing the chamber in silence once more. When they returned to the station, the crew stared in shock. Aaron looked decades older than when he had entered. But when he spoke, his voice was strong. He explained the designs, the histories, the lessons of civilizations that had risen and fallen. The engineers listened in awe, the scholars wrote with fevered hands, and the leaders bowed their heads with respect. Humanity now held wisdom beyond its years, a gift carried in one man's sacrifice. Aaron had lost his time, but in return, he had given his people a future. That night, as he rested at last, Mira sat by his side. She looked at him with quiet sorrow and deep pride. "You have become the archive," she said. Aaron smiled faintly, his eyes closing. "No, he whispered. "I am only human. And that is enough." The chamber behind the crates stayed silent, waiting. Perhaps one day it would open again. But for now, its treasures lived on in the heart of a man who dared to risk everything for the future of his kind.